If you want to build a sustainable business without compromising your values or your work-life balance, then come join me and my guests as we share insights and actionable advice that we've learned along the way as we build our business. This is the Ease Into Marketing podcast. Grab your drink of choice, cozy up, and let's get started. All right, welcome to the Ease Into Marketing podcast. And today I'm super excited to introduce to you my friend Kristen Westcott, a business growth strategist and sales page copywriter for online entrepreneurs. So she's a former director of operations. She spent a lot of time behind the scenes with several launches, but she quickly noticed that what was holding many business owners back was figuring out a launch strategy and writing copy that really aligned with their message and their core values. So right now, she supports women who are launching courses, group programs, masterminds, and that need their sales pages turned around really fast. So, Kristen, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Charlene. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, and thank you for joining us. I think our listeners will really love what you have to say. So now that I've given you a quick intro, could you share a bit more detail about what you do and who you help?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with online entrepreneurs who are probably been DIYing their copy for quite some time. And they're either at the point now where they're just at capacity and they're ready to start outsourcing that, or perhaps they've got a deadline of a launch date coming up and they've realized that everything on their list there's just way too much to do in the time they have left and they need to outsource at least a part of what they've got done. And so I help them by writing their sales page copy in a day. So I have a VIP day offering that allows them to be able to have that turned around really fast. And the other thing that I do is I support people in creating what I call conscious copy. We can have a discussion about that in a little bit of detail, but essentially what it does is it helps people move away from the typical bro marketing style launch that we're all really familiar with, and helps them really kind of make some decisions with intention about how they want to invite their clients to work with them without shaming or blaming them in the process.
I love the idea of conscious copy because, as you mentioned, that's been a really big thing I feel in the online space. Is everybody just keeps getting bombarded with these very heavy-handed messages, and I think they do convert, but at some point they do burn people out. So what has been one of your approaches to really creating sales pages that work but are more conscious and aren't as heavy-handed as those types of sales pages?
Yeah, so some of it goes against the convention. And so some people listening are going to be like, what? What is she talking about? But a lot of it has to do with when you're talking. So as copywriters, and Charlene, you know this, we're taught to find the pain, right? Agitate that pain point, and then provide a solution that's going to solve all of their problems. But what this does is it often individualizes the problem and it makes it that person, right? We're blaming that person, saying it's your fault that you're not further ahead in your business. It's your fault that you're poor at time management. It's your fault that whatever. And instead, what we need to do is we start with this. It's kind of a communal thing, right? You start with like, I believe that this is what is possible. And while we might be in this situation right now as a society, there is a solution. And so if you're ready to explore, what it might look like to come out of this phase or this challenge that you're facing, then kind of here's the offer. So we make it more of a we thing, right? Because time management is often not the individual's problem. It's the fact that we live in a society that has put so many expectations on us, and we're not functioning in a bubble alone. We have employers or family members or colleagues or clients or whatever your life entails, all vying for your attention with expectations. And recognizing that and then saying, and by the way, I have a solution that will help you figure that out, right? Help you figure out how to set boundaries, help you figure out whatever the program entails, so that person doesn't feel like it's their fault and they're on their own.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And how has that worked so far without going into any specifics so you don't breach your NDAs or anything, but how has that been working out?
Yeah, you know what? I think we're finally ready for that shift in marketing. I think had I tried that approach 10 years ago, there would have been a lot of resistance and it probably wouldn't have converted as well. But now people are looking for more genuine interaction with the people they're going to hire. They're done with this, with just being pressured to buy. We're shifting out of that hustle culture, and people are just wanting to have more faith in the person that they're going to be working with. And so I think we're ready for the genuineness that comes with this kind of messaging, and you're calling in the right person, right? So it lowers refund rates, it lowers customer service issues, and it increases the number of people that successfully get the transformation that you've promised because you've called in the right people for that program. And so overall, it's better for your brand, it's better for your customer retention, and those people are also more likely to buy from you down the road because they have got the transformation in that initial program. They haven't felt like they've been railroaded into making a decision. They haven't felt that excess pressure. And so now they're more confident in you as a human being as well, and how you'll be able to support them on the next leg of their journey.
Awesome. So, what is one way that you find us really efficient at calling out the right people?
So this is not gonna, again, this is not something people are gonna want to hear, but it's really getting to know that customer. And so voice of customer data is a jargony term that we copywriters use. But essentially what it is it's speaking to your audience. It's speaking to your current clients, your past clients, your members of your community, and really kind of getting to know and understand what it is they really want, and not so that you can turn around and use it against them when creating sales copy, but just genuinely to understand how you can then figure out a way to support them in a way that they need. And then making sure that all of that lines up in your copy, right? Letting them know the pieces and the components and the benefits of working through this transformation, and letting them know that there is work, right? We don't want to pull the wool over their eyes and think that they're going to have like this Cinderella fairy godmother transformation with the magic wand. Every program requires a little bit of work, and being open about that and showing them the value of doing that work will get them to want to. They'll be like, okay, I know it's, now that I know it's going to be work, but I can see what the outcome's going to be. I can see that that's possible for me, and then I'm willing to commit to this time with you.
Yeah, I feel like often if you're being told that there's no work involved at all and it's all going to be done super easy for you overnight, then that seems to be a red flag, either that it won't work or that the copy may be a little bit overhyped.
Exactly. Yeah, we're skeptical now, right? With rightly so. We've been, falling for these kinds of hyped up marketing tactics for over a decade now, and we've wisened up and we're like, there's no such thing as a magic pill. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's going to be some kind of work involved to get any kind of transformation.
Mhm. So I'd like to shift gears a little bit and ask you something that I ask everybody who comes on this podcast. So, what does ease mean to you personally and in your business?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's kind of similar in both sense that you're going with the flow instead of constantly feeling like you're having to push against things.
Mhm.
So for me, it's flow and freedom. So for example, what that means is like in my personal life, making sure that the commitments that I take on, are in alignment. They feel like something I'm comfortable with, something that I enjoy, not something that I'm like dreading and clenching my teeth that I have to go to this event or do this thing. And in business, it means, again, making sure that I'm building a business that I love because it's what I want to do, not because it's what I've seen somebody else on Instagram doing or someone else out there telling me that I should be doing. It's something that feels natural to me, something that, yes, you're going to have challenges in every business, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't feel overly difficult to do that thing that you want to do. And getting support, I think, is a big part of that.
Yeah.
So, regardless of whether that is a coach or outsourcing things, hiring a virtual assistant, getting a podcast editor, like whatever that looks like, I think a lot of that flow or that ease comes when we get support from other people that have strengths in areas that are maybe not our strengths.
What? You mean we can't do everything all at once?
Well, I have a growth mindset, so I feel like we can do everything, but just because we can doesn't mean that we should.
Yep, I totally agree with you on that one. So what are some things that you might have tried in your business that you figured out or might have not been a good fit or didn't feel natural to you that you just might have decided to drop?
Yeah. So I think like many entrepreneurs, when I got started, I did everything myself, right? You're like for me, the one woman show.
Yep.
So I was trying to build the back end of my website, doing all the graphics, writing the copy, right? I was doing everything. Um, and what I quickly realized was that all those things that I was doing, all those technical pieces that were not my forte, would take me hours. And that was hours that I was not spending connecting with other people, building relationships online, either with other entrepreneurs or followers. And at the end of the day, it was better to outsource those pieces and create that ease so that I could then connect and actually start to build my brand, be more visible, and really start to serve the people that I wanted to work with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so what has been working for you in terms of ease into marketing recently? So are there specific points that you focus on or certain channels that you focus on that feel more natural than maybe other channels?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I am an extreme introvert. And so I really actually enjoy writing, also as a copywriter, probably also not a surprise, but I enjoy writing. And so I blog each week, I email each week, I post, on social. And it's funny that this conversation is happening now because on May 31st, I made the decision to get off Instagram. And so I am not on Instagram. That is a platform that causes me anxiety. It's not something that I enjoyed. I was doing it because I thought I had to do it. And now I'm over on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a great platform if you're working with entrepreneurs. It's great for other businesses as well, but I'm not a LinkedIn expert, so I don't want to get into that area too much. But for me, it's a slower pace. It doesn't have all of the reels, all of that kind of stuff. And reach of the text post is still pretty far. So I don't have to do lives and videos and all that kind of stuff to still be able to serve my audience. And so that's been a big shift that in the last little bit to kind of make that decision that goes against the grain of what online marketing kind of suggests. But it's been really good for me in that sense. And then the other piece is outreach like this, right? Like guesting on other people's podcasts or supporting their groups, like going in as a guest expert in their groups. All of those things get you visibility, but I'm doing it in a way that aligns with my personality and how I want to grow my business rather than trying to be on every platform, everywhere, doing all of the things and burning myself out.
And so, how did you figure out that LinkedIn was the platform for you? Because I feel like there's so much. Now there's TikTok that's coming up, there's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So how does somebody who feels like they're tempted to try everything at once really know what will work best for them and their business?
I think you have to get to know like your content personality. So I knew from day one in business, I didn't love doing video. So when you look at those platforms that you listed, TikTok, Instagram, those are heavily like those platforms heavily rely on video, whether it's in the form of reels or lives or whatever their newest feature ends up becoming, it's video. And so for me, knowing that it would be an uphill battle for me, there wouldn't be any ease or flow if I was feeling like I had to constantly produce reels. Whereas other people are not comfortable writing. They're very verbal processors. So then they might, shift to video based platforms because it seems something that's natural and content creation just comes easily to them. And so I would say to start there, start with what you're naturally drawn to as the consumer, because your people are on every platform. They're on every one of those platforms, especially if you're a B2B person, they're on every platform. You just have to pick the one that's going to work best for you because your energy is going to be different. If I force myself to do reels, my energy's off and people are not going to watch them, right? Like they're going to see that and they're going to feel that. Whereas they're actually going to read my blog post and feel the energy that went into that or the text posts I put on LinkedIn and really kind of, I don't know. I don't know how woo your listeners are, but everything we do has an energy associated to it. And we can tell if someone's like really into it or just doing it because they think they need to do it. And that comes across to your audience.
Oh yeah, that can definitely show. And I've been guilty in that of that in the past. I've posted things or made a video, and then later I look back at it and I was like, is this really going to be effective? Because we can tell that I did not want to make that video. And so sticking to what's really comfortable for you, I feel, is just so powerful and will transcend whatever is the top thing working right now. Because I feel like a lot of people are focusing on the most trendy app or whatever. But as you mentioned, people are people are everywhere. And I want to tie that back to one of the things you talked about, which was emailing, because emailing has been around for ages. And some of my listeners may know that I also preach email marketing. And so, how do you tie your LinkedIn strategy and your outreach strategy back into email?
Yeah. So I obviously, most marketers have something that they, you exchange for somebody's email. So whether you call it a lead magnet or a tripwire or any of the other fancy terms out there, you're giving someone something of value, and in exchange they're providing you with their email address. And there's obviously several different options. And so I use that to build my email list. I have a couple of different lead magnets out there. I have an on-demand training and a PDF. So again, whichever their preference for consuming content, there's different options there. And I promote them on LinkedIn.
Mm.
And I promote them in summits, or, when I'm, like I said, when I'm doing a training in someone else's group, I will mention, an upcoming event or my opt-in or my lead magnet. And that builds my list. And then what I do to tie that together is I also post about my blog posts on LinkedIn, but I also let my email list know about those blog posts. And so it just becomes this ecosystem of trying to feed everybody different avenues to get to the content, to build that connection, build that relationship.
Oh yeah, that's so you're really creating an ecosystem of you, of you and your business. So that's amazing. Um, so how would you say that your business has changed ever since you've implemented ease into it?
First of all, it's a lot more enjoyable. When I first got started in the online space, I think, like many of us, I took my corporate background and just applied it into the online community, right? Because we're all taught you have skills, you just have to figure out you have a skill and is it marketable, and you can build your own business. And I did that. Um, and what I figured out was it worked really well. I had a great business, but I was getting so burnt out. I wasn't loving what I was doing anymore. It got to the point where, it became like, oh my God, it's Monday. And I was like, the whole reason I built this business was because I wanted to love every day of the week. Right. And here I was feeling like I was back in corporate again. And so I ended up shifting entirely what I did out of operations. So I used to do like project management, launch management, as a director of operations, running the back end of couple online businesses. And when I shifted into copywriting, everything just felt easier. Content creation came to me overnight, naturally. Conversations just flow whenever I get on a coffee chat with somebody or anything. I don't have to think anymore about what am I going to say? How am I going to talk to this person? It just comes out because I love what I'm doing. I love every day of my business. And I've been so focused on building relationships that now it's just kind of second nature, that's how everything kind of all filters together.
Amazing. So one of the things that you did recently to really start showing up more that I've heard about is you co-authored a book recently. So I would love for you to tell us more about that.
Yes. So on June 2nd, the book that I was a co-author in released out into the world. It's available on Amazon. And it's part of the Rising Sisterhood. And the Rising Sisterhood is an initiative that was started by Amy Edge, the founder. And it's really was to address this issue of really needing to bring women together, right? Many of us grew up where women were not our friends, right? The girls at school were not always so nice to you, right? Girl world, mean girls, it's a real thing. And so we get it to become adults, and we are still in that mindset of women not being our allies, not being our supporters, not being, people we can rely on. And so Amy's vision was to create a community, a sisterhood of people that could come together and be supportive and understand their stories in relation to other people's stories. And so I was a co-author in book 3, where I share my story of overcoming the narrative of being from a broken home. So I grew up with a single parent. There's a lot of expectations. There were a lot of judgments, right? I was raised in the 80s and 90s. Things were a lot different then, when it came to that kind of stuff. And it shaped a lot of my view on life. It created me to become a perfectionist and to have a lot of thoughts around not being good enough. And so I share my story in there in hopes that other women who might also have this feeling of not enoughness that manifested somewhere along their journey to getting where they are today can see that they're not alone, and there are other ways that you can kind of navigate that journey as well. So I'm just one of 18 co-authors in that book that all share a story of, transformation in our own personal lives.
Wow, that sounds like a powerful read. So if anybody listening wants to check it out, you'll be able to find the book in the show notes. So thank you so much, Kristen, for sharing all of your wisdom with us. So if people want to find you online, how can they do that?
Well, the best place to find me on any kind of social would be LinkedIn. So I'm hanging out over on LinkedIn these days, and you can just search for Kristen Westcott. And the other place to find me, obviously, is my website. Like we've talked about, I blog weekly. So you'll be able to find all kinds of resources and free content and that kind of stuff over on my website at kristenwestcott.com.
Awesome. And one final thing, I know that you're planning a community appreciation roundtable in August, and I'd love to hear more about that so that our listeners can tune into that.
Yeah, so the event is going to be August 30th from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so if you're on a different time, so you might have to do a conversion there. And it's going to focus on how you can leverage your CEO time by seamlessly delegating your copywriting. So one of the things I'm sure, Charlene, you hear this often as well, is people are concerned about outsourcing their copy because they're not sure that the copywriter is going to be able to understand their voice, right?
Yeah.
They're like, I have a unique brand voice. How is anyone going to write like me? How does anyone sound like me? I don't want my audience to think that somebody else wrote this. I want it to sound exactly like me. And there's a way to do that. And if you work with a copywriter who has a process and a method. So we're going to talk at that roundtable with several different experts that are all going to explain how you can create a powerful brand voice and have somebody help you with the copy behind that.
Amazing. So can people, is there going to be a link for people to sign up?
There is. It's going to be over on my website as well, but I will give you the link for you to pop it in the show notes.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. So that is it for today. So hope everybody has an amazing rest of their day. And thank you, Kristen. I'll speak to you soon.